He was heartbroken by the one woman he loved deeply, and because of this, he began treating all women as trash. But the ending of this story will surprise you. Grab your popcorn and let's dive into it. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today, we're discussing a captivating Nigerian movie that's more than just entertainment. It's packed with lessons you don't want to miss. So, let's get into it. The movie begins with an amazing couple, Bankole and Julia, who recently got engaged. Julia was heading to a church program outside the state where she planned to spend a few days. As Bankole drove her to the airport, they expressed how much they would miss each other before she boarded her flight. After leaving the airport, Bankole called his friend Desmond and decided to hang out at a shopping mall on the island, as he felt lonely after Julia left. While at the mall, Bankole unexpectedly saw Julia with another man. The man kissed Julia on the forehead before driving her away. Bankole was shocked and heartbroken. He quickly went home, feeling weak and devastated. That evening, while Bankole was analyzing what he had witnessed, Desmond tried to console him. 2 days later, Julia called Bankole, sharing her experiences at the church program and mentioning her return date. Bankole offered to pick her up from the airport, but Julia declined, saying she didn't want to stress him. Bankole's uneasiness during their conversation was evident before the call ended. Julia returned on the scheduled day and found the dining table set for dinner. She was delighted and embraced Bankole when he came out. However, his cold attitude made her uncomfortable. When Bankole questioned her about the man she had been with, Julia was at a loss for words and couldn't defend herself. Bankole raised his voice, accusing her of lying, and warned her that this would be her last meal in his house. Despite her pleas, Bankole was resolute and left the room. The heartbreak consumed Bankole. He stayed indoors, reminiscing about the beautiful moments he shared with Julia, including the proposal and all their happy times. The memories left him deeply depressed. Days later, Desmond visited Bankole and urged him to let go of the hurt and move on, but Bankole insisted there was no healing for his broken heart. Meanwhile, a vibrant young woman named Ria was busy working in her well-furnished office. Her colleague, Clarice, stopped by to compliment her on a job well done. They had a brief conversation before Clarice left. That evening, Ria called her best friend, Temi, to share exciting news about her new boyfriend, who treated her exceptionally well. She described how perfect he was, but Temi advised her to be cautious, sharing her own experiences and lessons. They both enjoyed their conversation until Ria's boyfriend called, overtaking the moment. The next day, Ria saw her boyfriend while driving. She informed him of her plan to host him for the day and insisted she would cover all the expenses. Bankole, her boyfriend, was surprised but agreed as she told him to clear his schedule. They were spending the day together. The following morning, as Ria prepared for work, Bankole questioned her about her plans. He insisted she return home that night. Ria rebuked his overprotective tone politely before leaving. Despite her reassurances, Bankole called his friend to monitor her movements. Later, while Ria was at work, Bankole surprised her with flowers as an apology for his earlier behavior. Ria forgave him, but when he suggested she move in with him, she declined, citing her unpredictable work schedule. One night, an argument erupted between Bankole and Ria when Bankole overreacted to the way another man looked at her. Ria assured him of her loyalty, but Bankole dismissed her words and stormed off to his room, leaving Ria bewildered by his attitude. The next morning, as Ria searched for her car keys, Bankole insisted on being her personal driver for the day. He even cleared his schedule to prove his commitment. Although Ria initially resisted, she eventually agreed. That night, while Ria was asleep, Bankole tried to access her phone but failed due to a password change. He woke her up and questioned her about it. Ria explained her reasons and even changed the password back to the original, but Bankole still searched her phone. Exhausted, she fell asleep, confident she had nothing to hide. The next day, Ria confided in Temi at work, sharing how Bankole's behavior was becoming controlling. Temi advised her to reconsider the relationship, warning her about the lack of peace it might bring. During their conversation, Bankole called Ria, and despite the ongoing chat with Temi, Ria prioritized him, engaging in a sweet conversation over the phone. Over the weekend, while Ria was in the kitchen on a call with Temi, Bankole walked in. She ended the call to focus on him, but Bankole insisted she call back the person she had been speaking with. Despite explaining it was Temi, he demanded she prove it. Reluctantly, Rhea complied, though she was upset by his controlling behavior. During the call, Temi said something that angered Bankole, causing him to leave the kitchen in frustration. Bankole began giving Rhea the cold shoulder because of what her friend said. Later that night, Rhea continued apologizing, explaining that she didn't mean any harm. Bankole was upset because he believed Rhea's friend was advising her to leave him. Rhea reassured him and shared a secret she had been keeping: her past heartbreak caused by her ex-fiancé, which made her wary and convinced her that men are scum. As their conversation continued, Rhea made a statement that provoked Bankole. She said, "For every man who is a monster, there's a woman who caused it," and Bankole responded with the opposite claim. To settle the matter, Bankole insisted that Rhea invite her friend to spend the weekend with them. She agreed, and they moved on to enjoy the evening together. On the agreed day, Rhea's friend Temi arrived. She was amazed by Rhea's place, and Rhea jokingly told her to behave because her fiancé wanted to prove he was a good man. They laughed it off and headed to the kitchen to prepare dinner. While they were chatting, Bankole came in and was stunned to see that Temi was actually Julia, his ex-fiancée. Although surprised, he pretended not to recognize her. Bankole then took Rhea upstairs for a private moment in their bedroom before dinner, leaving Julia, posing as Temi, feeling uncomfortable. In the living room later, Bankole began questioning Temi about her advice to Rhea, which made Rhea uncomfortable. He asked her about her past relationships and why they ended. Julia, pretending to be Temi, admitted her ex left her because she cheated, an action she deeply regretted. She added that relationships are not always perfect or secure, to which Bankole agreed. When Rhea stepped out to freshen up, Julia reminded Bankole of their past relationship. She begged him to break up with Rhea and start over with her. Bankole resisted her advances and gave her a firm response that left her hurt before walking away. The next day, Julia worked out in a way designed to grab Bankole's attention, but he ignored her and went out for a jog. While jogging, a neighbor asked if he had reconciled with Julia, mentioning that he'd seen her around. When Julia approached Bankole and tried to act as though they were together, he openly rebuked her, leaving her embarrassed. Later, Julia returned to Rhea's house just as Rhea was leaving for work. Rhea asked her to help take care of Bankole while she was gone. Julia was thrilled at the opportunity and began plotting to win Bankole back. A few hours later, Bankole returned home and headed for the bathroom, assuming Rhea was inside. To his shock, it was Julia, half-dressed, attempting to seduce him. Despite her persistence, Bankole firmly refused and pushed her out of his room. That evening, Desmond visited and was surprised to see Julia. Thinking she was back with Bankole, he was confused when she introduced herself as Rhea's friend. Julia tried to play it cool, but Desmond became suspicious. During dinner, Desmond asked Bankole if he was involved with both women, making the situation even more awkward. Bankole begged Desmond to keep quiet about the situation, but Desmond warned him about the risks. Later that night, Rhea asked Bankole about his thoughts on Temi's behavior. Bankole carefully replied that it's hard to fully know someone. Rhea encouraged him to get along with Temi because both women were important to her. Bankole agreed, but remained on edge. That same night, Bankole went to the kitchen for a snack and encountered Julia, who confessed how much she missed him. Bankole reminded her of how she had betrayed him despite everything he had done for her. He expressed the pain her actions caused and told her she was the reason he found it hard to love and trust again. Julia apologized, but it was too late for reconciliation. Bankole walked away, leaving her in tears. The next morning, as Rhea saw Temi off, Temi whispered something into Bankole's ear before leaving him confused. Shortly after, a stranger knocked on Bankole's door, claiming he had a child with Rhea and that she had abandoned him. The man threatened to make Rhea return. Bankole, caught off guard, was left feeling betrayed and unsure of what to believe. At work, Rhea was in a meeting with her colleague Clarice when she received repeated calls from an unknown number. She excused herself to answer the call, only to find that the caller mistook her for someone else. The persistence of the stranger unsettled her, And as she tried to address the issue, Bankole sent her a message asking her to pack her things and leave. Shocked, Ria rushed home to confront Bankole. He bombarded her with questions, accusing her of being someone he didn't recognize. She explained the calls, but failed to convince him. Bankole, overwhelmed by suspicion and hurt, refused to listen further and insisted she leave. Heartbroken, Bankole became even more withdrawn, crying day after day over the betrayal he believed he had experienced. The next day, Julia visited Bankole to console him. She admitted that Ria's situation reminded her of her own past mistakes and claimed she had changed. Slowly, she began winning Bankole's trust again. While they were talking, there was a knock at the door. It was Ria. She tried to explain herself, but Bankole refused to listen. Julia came out and began shouting at Ria, claiming Bankole was no longer hers. Bankole dismissed Ria and told Julia to go back inside, but she refused until Ria left. The following day, Ria went to Temi's house and attacked her, accusing her of trying to steal Bankole. During the fight, Temi confessed that Bankole had been her fiancé before Ria met him. Stunned, Ria left and drove off. She then arranged a private meeting with Desmond, as she had something serious to discuss. That same morning, as Bankole was about to leave for work, he received a call from Desmond informing him that Ria was coming to visit and asking what he should tell her. Alarmed, Bankole rushed back home just in time. A while later, Ria arrived at Bankole's house. She was heartbroken, accusing him of ending their relationship despite having his own secrets. Bankole pleaded with her, hoping to explain himself, but Ria was too hurt to listen. Feeling wrongfully accused and broken, she left without giving him a chance to speak. Later that evening, Bankole and Desmond discussed the situation. Desmond, who had previously warned him about these complications, expressed disappointment in how things had turned out. He advised Bankole to give Ria some space and focus on sorting out his feelings for the time being. Their conversation eventually lightened up, and they enjoyed the rest of their evening together. The next day at work, Ria was reporting to her colleague, Clarice. However, Clarice noticed Ria was distracted and struggling to focus. When asked what was wrong, Ria opened up, admitting that the girl who had hurt Bankole was actually her friend. Sensing how deeply troubled Ria was, Clarice decided to give her a month-long break to rest, recover, and clear her mind. Ria was grateful for the gesture and embraced Clarice warmly before leaving. As Ria was heading to her car, Bankole intercepted her. He pleaded with her again, explaining that when Julia left him, he thought he could never love again, but meeting Ria had changed him. However, he made a remark that upset Ria further, and she left without listening to him. That night, Ria reflected on the beautiful moments she had shared with Bankole and the sacrifices she had made for him. Overwhelmed with sadness, she cried through the night. The next day, as Ria was heading home, she ran into Bankole again. He proposed they have dinner together to talk things over. She reluctantly agreed. At the restaurant, they shared a lovely meal, and Bankole opened up about how deeply Julia's betrayal had affected him, shaping his mistrust. Ria acknowledged his pain, but firmly stated that she refused to use her own past hurt as an excuse to harm others. She told him that only he could heal himself, and that she couldn't be the person to fix him or help him become better for someone else. Wishing him well in future relationships, Ria left, ending their relationship for good. The following day, Ria visited Temi. Expecting hostility, Ria instead expressed her disappointment. She asked why Temi hadn't disclosed that Bankole was her ex. Ria also criticized Temi for not being honest about her lingering feelings for Bankole and for portraying him as a bad person. She reminded Temi that her actions had left Bankole emotionally scarred. Wishing Temi a chance to heal and move forward, Ria left, leaving Temi feeling guilty. That evening, Julia visited Bankole and explained her reasons for cheating. She claimed it was because she needed money to pay her school fees, but didn't ask Bankole for help, as he had already done so much for her. Bankole dismissed her explanation, saying there was no place for her in his life anymore. He accused her of orchestrating much of his recent pain and advised her to learn from her mistakes before leaving. Julia was devastated by his words, realizing she had lost him forever. From that moment on, Bankole became reclusive, locking himself in his house. It was clear that a part of him felt empty and unresolved. One day, Bankole and Desmond decided to visit Rhea. Desmond spoke on Bankole's behalf, pleading with Rhea to forgive him. However, Rhea, still deeply hurt, shut the door in their faces, leaving them no choice but to return home. After some time, Rhea unexpectedly showed up at Bankole's house one night with a letter. In it, she outlined terms and conditions for continuing their relationship. She made it clear what she needed from him to rebuild trust and move forward. Deeply in love with her, Bankole accepted her terms. They reconciled, expressing their love for each other and reigniting their relationship, which they vowed to nurture and cherish. This story teaches us valuable lessons: not to treat others poorly because of past pain, to exercise patience, and to allow people the chance to explain themselves before jumping to conclusions. Thank you for watching this amazing movie. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more updates on the latest Nigerian movies. See you next time.